the next room of this very one, the man with the golden gun. Love is required whenever he's hired. Comes just before the kill. No one can catch him, no hitman can match him for his $1,000,000 skill. One golden shot means another poor victim has come to a glittering end. For a price, he'll erase anyone, the man with the golden gun.
This is M-Wire, Movie Week in Review. M-Wire is brought to you by Audible.com. Sign up today to get a free audiobook download at www.audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. Start today with a free 30-day trial with over 100,000 titles to choose from for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Don't forget to follow Audible on Twitter at audible_com. And now the latest and greatest in movies with M-Wire.
Hello and welcome to Shaken Not Stirred, M-Wire's spotlight on the Bond films, which is brought to you by the Geekcast Radio Network and Audible.com. I am one of your hosts, TFG1Mike, and joining me as always is MovieRevolt Dan. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
This one is going to be interesting, I think. But yeah, I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing good. It frightens me when you say that because every time Dan says that, ladies and gentlemen, I know that I'm going to be on one side of the fence and he's going to be on the other.
I think it makes for interesting discussion sometimes.
Oh no, it completely does. For me, I originally saw this. I think I caught it on TV in the early 90s, maybe when I was 10 or 11, 90, 91. I'd only caught bits and pieces of it, and at that time as a kid, the only reason why I even paid any attention to it was, look, boss, deplane! That was the only I did not know who Christopher Lee was. I would not know who Christopher Lee is until a certain space epic that we'll be getting to here in a bit. So I didn't really, as a kid watching this, I didn't know what the hell it was. All I knew was, was Deplane guy was in it. What about you? When did you first see Golden Gun?
When I went back and we watched this, I always assumed this is one I missed. But when we watched it for what I thought was the first time, I remembered a lot of it. I don't think I watched it a lot as a kid, but I might have caught it here and there. But I think the first time that I really got to experience all the greatness or lack thereof of a man with a golden gun was earlier this year. It was the first real experience I had with it.
Wow. I don't think they're on there anymore, sadly. I think the only thing that's on there is on Netflix now is the 67 version of Casino Royale. Let me look really quick. I don't think there's anything.
No, they're all, I just checked earlier this morning. They're still not there.
I know Netflix goes by, rights and contracts and everything else. Yeah, the only thing that's on there is the 1967 version of Casino Royale. I know they go by rights and contracts and everything else, but I don't understand if this is the 50th anniversary of Bond. We just had another new big 50th DVD and Blu-ray set of all of these films released. Well, obviously up to Sky, obviously not including Skyfall since it just came out. But I don't understand why Netflix can't get with MGM and say, hey, let us have these. Because I remember about 6 months ago, GoldenEye was on there, Tomorrow Never Dies was on there, Man with the Golden Gun was on there. All, a good majority of them were on Netflix, and I don't understand why they're not now.
I think they expired in the end of October. I could be wrong, but yeah, they were on there for a very long time. But it would be the perfect time. It'd be good marketing for them. It'd be like, hey, look, even you want to catch up with Bond, this is the perfect time. And even when they were on there, they didn't really do much. I mean,
They didn't stay on there long. I remember I put GoldenEye in my queue, and then like a week later, it said expires on and gave a date of when it was going to expire. I'm like, oh, okay, well I'll remove that now.
Yeah.
There's no sense in keeping it in my queue.
But luckily enough for myself, my wife was nice enough to get me the Blu-ray set for my birthday, so I was able to rewatch a lot of these movies. But it would be, or even like even Amazon or something else to kind of capture this time period. A lot of people are having.
Well, iTunes did it. I mean, iTunes has them all. Whether it's, and I love what iTunes has done. They have, you can either rent them individually, which is what I'm doing for the most part, or you can buy them individually. Whether in standard definition or HD, they have HD rentals and SD rentals plus HD buy and SD buy. But what they've also done with the main core actors that have done multiples, like Connery, like Moore, like Brosnan, like Dalton, they have bundles on there. And specifically for me, Pierce Brosnan, his bundle for his 4 films is $20 for standard definition for all 4 of his films. Now, if you go into each individual one of those films and look at it, the regular standard definition price is $9.99 per film. 4 films, that's $40 plus tax. I would rather pay $20 plus tax for 4 films than $40 plus tax. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand why the online medias are not, outside of iTunes, is not like embracing the fact that this is the 50th anniversary of Bond, and hey, let's have a contract to be able to get these films out to more people.
Yeah, I mean the whole streaming licensing thing is still really murky. I think people really haven't figured out an answer to it yet. I think with Amazon you can rent them, but I don't think they're free streaming with Prime for Prime members. But yeah, I think this is a perfect example of why they need to figure out how this whole streaming process is going to work, because that's where movies are going. So they got to figure out a way to get them. If it seems like moronic or they're really missing out. And if you think they would okay, we'll pay the money because in the long run, I think it will bring a lot of people to our program or to our streaming site if they can have the opportunity for this franchise, because Bond is huge. There's so many Bond fans, and many of them may not even own the movies, but if they know that they can watch them in your streaming service, well, maybe they'll join. So it's a huge missed opportunity.
So as I said before, we're going to be talking about 1974's The Man with the Golden Gun, and we're going to head it over to JT for just the facts.
As the film opens, we are introduced to Francisco Scaramonga, an assassin for hire, as he engages in a life-or-death duel with a gangster who has come to his private island to kill him. It's revealed that if the butler Knick Knack can find someone to kill his employer, he will inherit all of Scaramonga's wealth. After looting the would-be hitman, Scaramonga locates his signature weapon, a gold-plated single-shot pistol, and shoots the man dead. As Knick Knack jokes with his boss about how he might someday find someone to kill him, Scaramonga examines the gangster's gun and then uses it to shoot the fingers off a wax dummy of James Bond. In London, it seems that Bond has been targeted by Scaramonga based on the fact that a golden bullet with his service number has been delivered to MI6. M asks Bond if he has ever heard of the assassin, and Bond relates what he knows, which includes the fact that he charges $1 million per hit and that he only uses golden bullets as ammo. Bond also learns that Scaramonga was responsible for the death of a fellow 00 agent, and he travels to the agent's last posting to retrieve the bullet that killed him. Bond takes the bullet back to Q, who discovers the bullets are made by a rogue armorer named Lazar. 007 then goes to question Lazar, who says that Scaramonga has put in an order for more bullets. Bond then goes with Lazar to drop the new bullets off of Scaramonga's lover, Andrea Anders, and he follows her back to Hong Kong, where he is met by Mary Goodnight, another MI6 agent. Bond tracks Anders to a local hotel and goes there to question her about Scaramonga's location, learning that he will be at a local exotic dancers club that evening. While Bond is checking the club out, Scaramonga kills another man as he leaves the club, and Bond is told by M that the man who was killed is a scientist who developed a device called the Solex agitator, which can turn solar power into electricity. The device had been stolen by Scaramonga for his employer, a criminal kingpin named High Fat, and knowing that Scaramonga was hired through middlemen, Bond goes to High Fat's home and pretends to be Scaramonga in order to meet with him. After being invited back that evening for dinner, Bond leaves, and we find that Scaramonga was there the whole time, having already met High Fat face to face. When Bond returns that evening, he is ambushed by Knick Knack and rendered unconscious. High Fat sends Bond to a nearby martial arts dojo where it's expected he'll be beaten to death. However, after engaging in a brief martial arts battle with some of the students, Bond escapes with the help of Lieutenant Hip, a local contact. High Fat berates Scaramonga for his failure to kill 007, and then the assassin coolly shoots High Fat with his golden gun, taking over High Fat's operation. Later on, while romancing Agent Goodnight, Andrea Anders arrives at Bond's hotel, and after he hides Goodnight in a closet, he questions Anders. She admits to sending the bullet to MI6 to get his attention, and that she wants Scaramonga dead, asking 007 to kill him. Bond agrees, but only if she can get the Solex device back for him. And then he sleeps with her, because it's Bond. The next day, Bond goes to a kickboxing match to meet with Anders, only to find her dead in her seat. Scaramonga then introduces himself and admits to killing Anders for her betrayal. Bond tries to make a move, but sees Knick Knack has him covered with a tiny pistol. Scaramonga monologues about his life, while Bond covertly passes the Solex to Lieutenant Hip after it falls out of Anders' purse. Hip then passes the Solex off to Goodnight outside, but she is taken hostage when Scaramonga leaves. Bond pursues Scaramonga, but he escapes when his car transforms into a plane and flies away.
Autobots, transform!
Realizing that Goodnight had planted a tracker on the car, Bond tracks the signal to Scaramonga's island. When he lands, he is met by Knick Knack, who takes him to his boss, and the well-mannered assassin gives Bond a tour of his home and the compound underneath. Scaramonga even shows him that he's developed tech that, when used in concert with the Solex device, he can channel the power of the sun into a deadly laser beam, which he demonstrates by blowing up Bond's plane. Scaramonga boasts to Bond that he plans to sell the tech to the highest bidder after he duels with Bond to see who is the better shot. The two engage in a deadly game of cat and mouse, which leads into a funhouse in Scaramonga's home, where Knick Knack activates various tricks and traps to distract both men. Bond eventually takes the place of his wax dummy and shoots Scaramonga dead when he enters the room. And while all this is going on, Agent Goodnight escapes from a guard after she knocks him into a tank of liquid nitrogen. However, this causes an overload in the power plant of Scaramonga's island, and it begins destroying the island. After locating Goodnight, Bond retrieves the Solex from the laser weapon before they escape the island on Scaramonga's personal junk. Knick Knack shows up on the boat and tries to kill Bond for cheating him out of his payday, and after a surprisingly vicious fight, Bond traps the vertically challenged henchman in a cage up on the deck, and then ignores a call from M as he and Goodnight get down to business, ending the film. Opening during the Christmas season of 1974, The Man with the Golden Gun would be the last film directed by Guy Hamilton, his fifth in the 007 series. The film starred Roger Moore as 007, Sir Christopher Lee as the titular villain Scaramonga, Britt Eklund and Maud Adams as the film's Bond girls Mary Goodnight and Andrea Anders, Sun Tek-oh as Lieutenant Hip, and direct from Fantasy Island, Hervé Villechaize as the minuscule malcontent Knick Knack. The film, budgeted for only $7 million, went on to make almost $100 million at the box office during its run, and would generate mostly negative reviews amongst the critics of the day. Derek Malcolm of The Guardian said the film suffered from a weak plot. The limpest of the lot were his exact words, but he did enjoy the performances of Christopher Lee and Britt Eklund in their respective roles. Critic for The Observer Tom Milne was even more critical of the film, saying that the series must have been scraping the bottom of the barrel with this movie. However, Nora Sayer of the New York Times did praise the performance of Lee and Villechaize, saying that their sinister vitality is what cuts through the doughy script. Modern critics aren't any fonder of the film, considering its current 46% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Most modern reviews of the film criticize the same flaws, those being the so-so action of the script and the need to borrow elements from the popular kung fu movies of the day. Now, did you know that Sir Christopher Lee was not the first choice for Scaramonga? Actually, Hollywood badass Jack Palance was the first one sought for the role, but he eventually turned it down. It then went to Lee, who was not only Ian Fleming's cousin, but he was also looked at for the role of Dr. No in the very first Bond film. And this was not the only time Christopher Lee would play Scaramonga, as he would reprise the role in the video game GoldenEye Rogue Agent in 2004, providing his voice and likeness. And the Golden Gun of Scaramonga would go on to become a staple of Bond video games, most often as a one-shot kill achievement. The Man with the Golden Gun was also the only film to feature Mary Goodnight, who in the novels was Bond's gal Friday, who helped him out in his missions. The book the film is based on was also the last novel Ian Fleming completed before his death in 1964, and the title track of the movie, The Man with the Golden Gun, was sung by Scottish singer-actress Lulu, who also sang the theme song of To Sir with Love in 1967. The Man with the Golden Gun is an okay Bond film in my opinion. It's not without its flaws, and that includes bringing back the redneck sheriff from Live and Let Die. But it's a lot of fun if you can get past that and enjoy the ride. Especially the delightful villainy of Scaramonga and Knick Knack. The plane, boss, the plane! Sorry, had to be said. This has been Just the Facts for Man with the Golden Gun. I'm JT from Saskatoon, signing off.
Thank you once again, JT, for giving us the plot on The Man with the Golden Gun. I don't get. This is probably James Bond in a Western.
Yeah, there are some Western elements in this for sure. Almost like James Bond in a Western, or the Westworld. You know, that old Michael. I can't think of his name. That old, with Yul Brynner, that old classic sci-fi film. But it's very similar with Crazy Funhouse and how that movie played out, with kind of the combining that with the Western. I think James Bond is and The Man with the Golden Gun is very similar.
Yeah. And I mean, like JT laid out in the plot, I mean, really, it's to control the sun, really? That's the, like, okay, this is the ninth film, right? Yeah, ninth spy film, James Bond. Yeah, this is the ninth film in the series. This is the, however many that we've covered so far to this point. And I've said this before, I don't know what it is about expecting more writing or something more elaborate than, Dr. No, a nuclear, war plot, or, okay, Goldfinger, that was a little different. That was, slightly it was a slight switcheroo for what we originally thought it was going to be. You take Live and Let Die, a heroin plot, really?
Yeah. Yeah. Bond is never really, the Bond films, in a way, there's always this crazy, especially with Moore, this crazy scheme to try to take over the world. It's almost like Pinky and the Brain-esque in a way. It's like every time there's a new plot to take over the world, or do something, or try to poison the water supply, or make millions of dollars by radiating all the gold in Fort Knox. And not until, I think, even Brosnan, I think they get a little more realistic, and then they go crazy. But I think not until recently. I think the plots have always been kind of crazy, and you kind of all right, it's a Bond movie, it's what you expect. But sometimes they are really out there and kind of pointless, and I think this is kind of one of them, honestly.
If they took out the whole, if they just made Scaramonga to be an assassin for hire plot, and made this movie an assassin for hire, like his shtick is Scaramonga is the man with the golden gun.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if they took out the whole solar thing, and again, it reminds me of, but Megatron, what is your solar needle gonna do out here in the desert? It reminds me of the G1 episode when Megatron has one of his Decepticons build a solar needle to control the sun's energy, and it just doesn't.
It doesn't feel very evil to begin with. It's like, wait.
No, I mean the evilest, if I can even say that as a word, the evilest that it feels is more so in Scaramonga killing off these people.
Yeah.
And everything else. Like I said, if it was make it a James Bond hitman movie.
Yeah, or just make it like a cat and mouse game between Scaramonga and Bond. And I don't think you need more than that. I think for some reason they always feel they need to have this huge scope or these huge stakes. And I think a simple personal story between Scaramonga trying to take out like the ultimate assassin and Bond, I think that would have been a million times better movie. But they keep trying to go away from that, and I never really understood why.
Yeah. To break down the cast in this, of course, you got Roger Moore back. His second outing as Bond. He would be Bond for 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. He would be Bond for 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to a Kill. 7 times from Live and Let Die through A View to I don't know if it's the movie more so than it is Moore's performance, but this is probably my favorite Roger Moore film from his era as Bond, simply because when I rewatched this on Netflix before they took it away again, um, I hadn't seen this since I was a kid. And as a kid, I only saw brief scenes of it. I didn't see. I don't remember seeing the whole movie as a kid. Watching this for the first time just made me think of how the olden days of cinema was done, the olden days of mystery filmmaking is done, because I had no idea what was coming next. Like like start to finish, starting off the film with the guy going in there and, Scaramonga, hunting him, and Knick Knack using all the little buttons and gadgets and blah 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 and all that. I honestly did not know what was going to come next at all.
Yeah, I guess I wouldn't disagree with that. I do agree that they kind of make this plot of Scaramonger, or like what actually is happening, more in the dark, because the entire time you assume that Bond or that Scaramonger is out to get Bond, but that's not really the case. And
Right.
in a way, like I mentioned, I think that was a wrong choice to make. I don't think we needed that mystery, but I could understand enjoying it. But I like you. I assumed certain things, that Scaramonger was simply going to try to assassinate Bond, but then there's really not. That's not the case, and we find that out as we go. So they did do a good job of kind of keeping us in the dark. But personally, I would have enjoyed them not go the direction that they did, but we'll get into that more.
Yeah. I had no idea that Christopher Lee was Ian Fleming's cousin,
No,
regular golf partner.
no, I had no idea either. Honestly, that was a very big surprise to me. I did know, like they mentioned, um, when I was going back and kind of going through the history of Bond, that he was in talks of, or Ian Fleming thought he would make a good Bond, but I never realized that they were cousins. That's a nice little
Yeah.
bit of trivia there.
You also have Britt Eklund as Mary Goodnight. Um, I guess this is well, okay. Honey Rider, fine. Who else? Pussy Galore. Um,
Sol-
Obvious,
you
huh?
have like Solitaire and
Yeah, Solitaire. But I guess that kind of continues the name of Bond girls that are just kind of not necessarily jokes, but little jabs at different things. I liked her. I thought it was interesting. This would be the first appearance, though, that she's his assistant or another MI6 agent or agent in training or something, right?
yeah, she's. I guess in the books her character is found more often, but this is the first time she was in the
Yeah.
movies as like this kind of up and coming, agent that's following Bond around like a puppy dog.
And apparently, at one time, the actress was married to Peter Sellers.
Yeah, the same guy that I think he was married to the girl from Splash. I forget, but yeah, he's been a very lucky man for sure.
Yes. And then you've got Maud Adams as Andrea Anders, Scaramanga's mistress. I don't know how I feel about the whole multiple Bond. Like, okay, two Bond girls is fine, but more than two, it's kind of like, oh man, what was that one that they had? There is one film, it might be coming up, where they have like three different Bond girls. And I can see maybe like a pre-title sequence of him doing something, Bond doing something with a woman, and then just saying, "Well, gotta go save the world," or gotta go export some stuff or whatever.
Yeah,
I could see that, and it's kind of a throwaway, but I find it rather strange and rather kind of off-putting. Where okay, Bond girls, they have an amazing legacy, but you have to like pick the ones you like. You know what I mean? And of course it varies from film to film, but it's like Bond girls to me are like having too many. Depending on how many there are, it's like too many villains in Spider-Man 3.
yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's so distracting sometimes. You take
Well, from
um
Russia with Love had had a lot of Bond girls in it that
yeah.
you're thinking of, because they had the girl in the beginning, they had the girls in Istanbul where he's kind of had maybe the first threesome on scene, and then they had the girl from Russia. So yeah, they're
Yeah.
Usually, if they go above 2, it gets kind of unnecessary. The typical Bond rule is the first girl that Bond sleeps with, she dies, and it's
Yeah.
you want to be the second girl. And when they go beyond that, it kind of gets unnecessary. But especially with Roger Moore, and it's odd seeing him trying to, you know, pick up any chicks, let alone multiple ones. So.
We will be getting into that here in a in a couple of minutes. But no, I mean it's like, a perfect setup. And again, I will bring this up when we get to my era. Is that Bond is at Oxford, brushing up on a little Danish. That's a perfect, like, okay, that's a hot chick. That's great. You move past the pre-title sequence or whatever else, or whatever it is. I forget. I know Goldeneye like the back of my hand, but I forget exactly when that happens. But you see what I'm saying? It's like they'll take one pretty actress and put her with Bond, and whether she dies or not, depending on the plot of the film, as long as you start out that way, that's fine. And then you go somewhere else and do something else with a different one. I don't mind the one-off Bond girls, but the fact that what is it? I think it's coming up when we'll talk about A View to a Kill, Moore's last one. There's like 3 or 4 or 5 different Bond girls in that film. So weird. Let's see. You also have Richard Liu as High Fat, the Thai millionaire industrialist who is employing Scaramanga to assassinate the inventor of the Solex.
I always thought it was like the Solex sounded like a Rolex for like soul music or something like that. It was a random.
Yeah.
It was a odd choice. I guess solar power, and I guess one thing we should consider during this time is the energy crisis is going on right now. So energy and solar energy is a big thing because the lack of gas and whatnot. But I think that's kind of the reason they threw it in this movie. But they probably would have been better if they just left it out.
This was the first time that I saw Sheriff Pepper, because I actually saw this film before I watched Live and Let Die, and I absolutely loved it. I thought it was so great, especially going back now and watching Live and Let Die and then watching this, the continuity for the character from film to film. I really, really enjoyed it.
I'm very glad that you enjoyed Pepper. That's all I'm gonna say.
You don't like it. We know.
Yeah.
You've got, of course, Bernard Lee's back as M. Of course, Desmond Llewellyn as Q. 7th of 17 Bond films in which Llewellyn appeared. He appeared in more Bond films than any other actor. Worked with the first 5 James Bond actors. Anything else you want to say about the cast?
No, I guess the only thing was we kind of see them trying to replace Miss Moneypenny. We've always had that relationship between Bond and Moneypenny, that flirtatious relationship, and then they kind of throw in M's secretary in this, and it's an odd choice. I can understand what they're doing it because that actress is definitely getting up there in age, so they kind of want to throw some youth in there, but it's actually a character they end up never using again. So it was just something strange for this one movie that a secretary would have a secretary, but what are you gonna do?
Yeah, that was a little weird. Overall, I love the music in this. I love the theme song. The theme song is so awesome.
I do. I enjoy it as well. The lyrics are kind of funny. They're very suggestive, and they're not holding anything back. I mean, the opening title sequence is. I mean, like we get it. We understand what a gun's supposed to stand for. They make it pretty evident in multiple occasions of the phallic symbol of the gun. But I like the song too, honestly.
Yeah. And I don't know. I really like the title sequence. I love the fact that I don't think it's a gloss effect. It's more of a washover, a water effect. Because I was having such a hard time screen capping the title for the banner for the post, but because it washes over. So the title comes on and you have the golden gun there, but the title washes out as as the effect continues through it. So it's like crap.
Yeah.
But I really love the song. I love the opening title sequence. I thought that was great.
Yep.
And again, it goes to my point of this should have just been James Bond versus Scaramonga. Take away the whole Solex thing. The solar energy plot MacGuffin is just so. I mean that's like throwing in a red herring into something that doesn't need a red herring into it.
No, it really doesn't. It's completely unnecessary. It doesn't really have a point to it. It's not something that I think we're ever worried about, or it seems out of character for Scaramanga too. It doesn't seem like it'd be something he would really be interested in, considering like what he's known for, and he's this $1 million assassin. Like, really, why would he get into this energy crisis business as well? It's an odd choice for sure.
Yeah, and I now know where the third nipple joke in Mallrats comes from.
Or in Friends with Chandler and the Nubbin.
Yeah. All right. So highlights on this. Honestly, I like everything about it. I didn't see too many. Like last week when we talked about Live and Let Die, that movie dragged on. This one was like punch after punch after punch, and it moved along very well. The pacing on it was very well, I thought. And again, it brought me into what a true mystery movie is, not just a Bond spy film, but just an overall movie mystery of what's going to happen next. I love all the different parts with Knick Knack, and Knick Knack is so Knick Knack is so funny because he's everywhere. Little dude's everywhere.
Yeah, he's definitely a highlight for sure.
And the whole thing with why, like, we never actually like okay, again, I'm gonna say if you took the solar part out about this, maybe James Bond killed Scaramanga's former wife, or maybe, well, obviously James slept with his mistress, so I could see Scaramanga wanting to assassinate James for that. But if they had made it more about the two of them and took out I need to conquer the world by using solar energy to destroy stuff. I need a giant frickin' laser beam over here. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I like the plot, but at the same time, there are certain things I just don't think should have been there. What about you? What are some highlights for you on this one?
You mentioned Knick Knack and Scaramanga. I think there are two great characters in the film. I love Christopher Lee's performance. I love the relationship of Scaramanga and Knick Knack, like how Knick Knack's always trying to find a way to kill Scaramanga to take all of his island and take control. I love how Knick Knack is honestly like not a joke. He's just as big of a threat as other characters, and how he hides and he uses his height and how people will not take him seriously to his advantage, and he gets the best of Bond as he's hiding as this like statue and knocks him out with a little trident. But yeah, I love Knick Knack. He's a lot of fun. Lee's the ultimate villain actor. If you want to get someone to play a villain and play like the anti-Bond, Christopher Lee is the perfect person for that.
Oh yeah. And again, like I said in the intro to the podcast, up until Attack of the Bones. Oh, I'm sorry. I mean Attack of the Clones. Star Wars Episode 2. I did not know because as a kid, like I said, I saw this film, but I didn't connect stuff. I didn't put two and two together until I saw Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, it's Christopher Lee! Oh my God, and he was in this, and he was in this, and he was in this." I didn't put two and two together, but going back and watching this film, I want to see a young Christopher Lee with a lightsaber in his hand. I know it's not going to happen, but
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, he is the actor to get, as you said, for villain roles. If you really look at Knick Knack, without the solar plot, Knick Knack is the villain of this episode, or not episode, but is the villain of this movie, because in the end he essentially double crosses Scaramanga. He's like, with you gone, this will all be mine.
Yeah, I think he's trying. It's almost like You wonder though if he's being serious. It's on, or it's just like this interplay they have with one another. Like he wants to kill him, but he really doesn't, and he's kind of if he does kill him, then he has nothing. He has nothing. He has no idea what he'll do if that actually happens. It's more like he enjoys
Yeah.
the chase and not where the chase would lead him.
Right. Yeah. Did you have anything you obviously you probably have stuff you don't like about the film? I didn't find anything that I didn't find any moments that would be like that makes no sense to me or that I don't know. I just and it wasn't even me going off nostalgia as I've said multiple times. I only saw this when I was like, 10 or 11. I don't remember it that well, and I only saw it in full from beginning to end like 2 weeks before we recorded this show. So, when I watched it, I was thoroughly enjoying it. So I don't know what are some of the bad points that you or other people may not like about it.
For one, we talked about it with how the plot's very convoluted, and you mentioned how it went very fast for you. I guess having that plot that was unnecessary made things slow down and made everything linger for me. And I did get bored at times. So I was kind of waiting for things to happen, and I think
Right.
a big reason why when I always wondered like why do I like this and not like Live and Let Die? Because if you look at the two, or sorry, why don't I like this and why do I like Live and Let Die? Because if you look at the two, they're very similar in a lot of ways. I think the reason why, when it comes down to it, is I just don't have fun with this. I don't. The highs aren't that high. I think the humor in this really hurts the action and doesn't enhance it. The perfect example of this is the awesome car corkscrew stunt where they get the car and they go through the jump and he lands it and it's really happening. It's a real thing. It's not computer generated. It's not a model. But then they put in that whistle sound, and it completely it completely ruins that moment because then that moment becomes what you remember and not the crazy stunt. It becomes cartoonish and not something to
Yeah.
admire. And I felt that was the perfect example of how I felt about the action almost throughout the entire movie. I think that's kind of why I didn't have as much fun with it. Also, it has personally, two of the worst Bond characters ever. I really can't stand Burt Eklund as Mary Goodnight. I find her character annoying. I find her joke to get old very quickly. I get it. She's a ditzy blonde that gets in more trouble than she's more harm than good. And
Yeah.
I found it very. I mean, I get it, and it was a joke that was repeated and unnecessary, and she was more of an adherence to Bond than like in make it than an advantage. Most of the plot, most of what happens in this is because of her. Like
Yeah.
Bond would have stopped and cared about Scaramonga if it wasn't the fact that Goodnight gets stuck in her or
Stuck in the
gets
car.
stuck in the
Yeah.
car, and so yeah, I can't stand her. And I also in this I talked about this in last episode with Live and Let Die. Sergeant Pepper, he's just not my cup of tea. I just find him unnecessary. I feel like I don't know, he's too much at times. He wasn't too bad in Live and Let Die. He had his moments in this. He like, kind of amps it up. But what's interesting about this is they were shooting this before Live and Let Die came out. They didn't, and they assumed, I think, that Pepper would be a huge hit, and he ended up not being. And uh, I think that's why they kind of carried him through. But I didn't realize this when watching it that they filmed this movie before Live and Let Die was even released for most people. So this was really rushed. This kind of went through really quickly.
Yeah.
But honestly, I thought Moore was really good in this. I thought he was more comfortable. And even though this was a rush production, I never really noticed it throughout. And then, while I love the final duel between Bond and Scaramonga, the climax after that was superfluous and unnecessary because it goes back to that lackluster plot of the Solex, of them trying not to have this island explode. And just, once Scaramonga dies, I think the movie should have ended. It wasn't necessary. So,
No, yeah, I will agree with that because it's like, good night. How did you dispatch the guard? Oh, well, I dropped him over the edge, or I knocked him over the edge, and he fell into that vat. Can't you read a sign? Good night. It says 0. And then the whole island explodes. Like,
yeah.
yeah, I will agree that now that you point that out, it should have like, it should have been a cutscene to the point of okay, Scaramanga is dead. Knick Knack is on the island. If it explodes, it explodes. Fine, whatever. Knick Knack's not gonna do anything. Knick Knack does, even though Knick Knack knows how to work the machinery, he doesn't. Knick Knack isn't one of those characters that has the global domination, not gene, but like thoughts in him.
And I agree. If you had, ended it with Scaramonga dying and like maybe cut to one of the classic James Bond sex scenes or something like that with Goodnight or whatever else, and just ended the film that way, it would have been a lot better.
Yeah, and two, I think with Goodnight and Roger Moore, them together just felt creepy to me. A lot of it's Roger Moore's age, but it just felt like I think this is statutory rape. I don't know for sure, but this does not feel right. But yeah, I think I would have preferred if they did with Knick Knack what they end up doing with Jaws, and at the end of Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker, where they kind of carry him over and kind of have him switch to the other side. I think that'd be kind of cool if they kept Knick Knack around. I think he's a character that could have worked throughout, and I would have loved to see him again. But
Yeah.
he's one of the few henchmen that doesn't die, but we never see him again.
Yep. So, all right, I think we're going to go to a quick commercial break, and we'll come back with some final thoughts.
You can now hear the Geekcast Radio Network while on the go with Stitcher Smart Radio. Stitcher is a free use and talk mobile app available for your smartphone. And when you download Stitcher to hear Geekcast Radio, you'll have a chance to win money. Downloading is quick and easy. Just find Stitcher in the App Store. During registration, hit the promo code box and enter Geekcast Radio, all one word, to get automatically entered to win $100. The latest episodes of the shows will be waiting for you in your favorites. You'll get access to lots of other amazing shows too. Always available to you on demand, no syncing. It's Stitcher Smart Radio. Don't forget to enter promo code Geekcast Radio when you register.
The hell you talking about, boy? Go get him, boy. I love JW. For you, the listeners of Movie Week in Review, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. Use audibletrial.com/geekcastradio. All right, final thoughts on Man with the Golden Gun, sir.
When I walk out, or after I'm watching The Man with the Golden Gun, it's not a movie I hate. It's not a movie I dislike. It's one I'm more indifferent towards. I love the villains. I think there's some good parts to it, but I think it could have been a lot better if they just tweaked a few things. I know a lot of people love this movie. Some people hate it. I kind of fall in between. I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's great. It's one I think you should watch. I think there's some, just for Christopher Lee and Knick Knack alone. But yeah, it's kind of where I fall right in between in this one. After rewatching again recently.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. As I've said multiple times in this episode, I did not know what was going to happen next, and I thought this not only lent itself to a good Bond, Bond spy film, it also lends to a just general movie mystery, film type of mystery film. I do agree that the whole solar thing could have been thrown out and it would have been a lot better. So yeah, I like this one. It's probably, I don't know, I have so many problems with another one that I like that we'll be getting to, but I would have to say out of all of the Roger Moores, this and the next week's episode that we get to are probably my two favorites, with a third one coming in there at the end. But I don't know. Out of the ones that I've watched for Roger Moore, this one so far is my favorite. Possibly I'm going to have to go back and watch the other Roger Moore movies that we are not covering here in Shaken Not Stirred. I don't know. I don't know. So we hope you enjoyed the Bond film review here in MY's Shaken Not Stirred series, and wish you'll join us next week when we'll be talking about The Spy Who Loved Me. Where's Austin Powers when you need him? For now, I am TFG1Mike with
MovieRevolt Dan.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.
What do you know about a man called Scaramanga?
The man with the golden gun. He always uses a golden bullet.
This trinket was sent with a note requesting special delivery to you.
I've never seen Mr. Scaramonga. Mr. Bond, this is impossible. I cannot.
I can't tell you. You'll kill me.
Who?
Scaramonga.
Roger Moore, back in action in the exotic East as James Bond, 007, on a collision course with the most dangerous man alive. The man with the golden gun.
Hold on, sir.
James Bond, on the job. The girls are willing.
Dreamed about you setting me free.
The pace is killing.
Stay in there, good night. We've got you spotted. How about a demonstration, boy? Certainly, sir.
You'll meet old friends and new enemies. It's non-stop Bond. The action is spectacular.
You're not. I sure am, boy.
Reaching a new high for 007.
Bonjour, Monsieur Bond. I am Knick Knack. Monsieur Scaramonga will welcome you personally.
The target is the highest-priced killer in the world. He plays a deadly game, and the stakes are sky high.
You've just listened to Movie Week in Review on GeekCastRadio.com. If you would like to leave feedback on the show, there are many ways to do so. First, you can visit the website, GeekCastRadio.com, where you can comment on the episode and all of our different podcasts. Be sure to rate our show on iTunes and leave us feedback. You can follow us on Twitter at GCRN_MWire. Become a fan of us on Facebook by searching Geekcast Radio Network. You can email us at feedback@geekcastradio.com. Call the voicemail line 502-526-5821. Please remember to tell us the show you're leaving the message for and your name. So until next time, unleash the geek in you.
In a world, there, I said it, happy